Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out tonight to see Quibi The Stranger on the big screen. My name is Perry Nemroff. I'm with Collider, and I'm absolutely thrilled to be here tonight to get to moderate this post-screening Q&A for you. Let's meet the team behind The Stranger. We have writer-director Veena Sud and stars Maika Monroe, Avan Jogia, and Dane DeHaan. Hello, everyone. I hope you are doing well. Huge congratulations on the project. So, Veena, let's kick it off with you first and just discussing the genesis of the idea. What was the starting point? And also, what would you say is the toughest story beat to crack?
The genesis of The Stranger was the long simmering rage that I felt, and I think probably almost every woman in America felt post-2016 election. And I wanted to take that rage and have it be personified in a way that was not polite or constructive or necessarily educational. I just wanted it to be, and you guys have seen the end, fully fucking unleashed. So that's where it came from.
Well, Maika, I'll jump to you. This is a lot because you shoot at night the entire time, and also you're in almost every single frame of this series. So what would you say was the most intimidating part of the process when you first signed on, and how did Veena and the crew help see you through it?
I think maybe one of the most intimidating but also most exciting episodes was when we pretty much did almost a oneer for an episode. And I remember Veena coming to me and, telling me for the first time, we're going to try and do this. And it's definitely scary because, you got to, every part of this take has to be perfect. And you're having to time it with the camera, but also like in this insanely intense scenes. And so it was definitely, I was nervous about it, but also really excited because I'd never done anything like it. And there was almost something like, felt maybe similar to a play where you had to have everything kind of mapped out and practiced over and over again. So yeah, that was really fun.
I do want to touch on the technology conversation here. And I'm just curious, after going through this whole process, did this story make any of you rethink how you incorporate technology and social media in your lives today?
I mean, like in a way, we're sort of all aware of the contract that we've sort of signed when it comes to like living our lives online. It's sort of like a convenience and human connectivity in exchange for privacy, and autonomy. So, it is a bit of a spooky sort of construct, the idea that you like your entire, like a ghost versions of you, like there's a weird MySpace 14-year-old version of myself, Echo, living out there. I don't know if it's maybe rethink this because I think we're so deep into the negotiations that there's no pulling out of the contract. But yeah, it definitely is something to give you something to think about.
If there's anything to be learned from it on like a personal level, it's that social media is very much the responsibility of the user, and it can be used for good or it can be used for evil. It can be used for fun, or it can be used to do really bad, misleading things. So I think it's, as people that use social media, it's truly the responsibility of the user, not only to, take responsibility for the content that they put out, but also fact check and be aware of the content that they're consuming.
So, Veena, everyone tonight got the opportunity to watch The Stranger on the big screen, but was it on your mind much at all that you were kind of telling a story that taps into technophobia at all, and it was being designed to be watched on your phone?
Yeah, I mean, that was the meta of it all. That was the meta and the meta that, the character is driven into a night of complete terror because Dane can track her anywhere she goes. A conceit at one point, and we did not do it because we didn't have the technology at the release date to do this, but there would be a point where, the creepy kind of ringtone that you guys heard tonight from Dane's phone that, repeats itself over and over and over. We were going to drop each episode on consecutive days, starting at 7 p.m., 8 p.m., 9 p.m. And every time that an episode dropped into your phone, you would hear a creepy ringtone. So mid-season at 2 a.m., you're asleep and ding, ding, here comes Dane's ringtone. I was very curious, would people wake up? Would they watch the episode? It's mid-season, big cliffhanger. Would they go to sleep? Would they dream about it? So yeah, there was a lot, and there will be so much more to discover in the Quibi format in terms of this is a radically new way to watch story and to, interact with story.
So Dane, the last time we spoke, you told me that this was the first bad guy you've played since your worldview changed. And, it made me wonder, do you think that was key to you being able to pull this role off as well as you did? Could you have played Carl before that happened?
I just think it would have been a different version of Carl, or definitely, like you said, this was the first time I've played a bad guy since I've come to the realization that there really are people out there that are just bad people. I think when I was younger, I played a lot of bad guys, but with the thought that in our hearts, everyone's good and everyone's doing something for a reason that they think is good. But certainly I've come to realize in the past 3 years or so that there's people out there that are just really terrible, evil, bad people that aren't afraid to do bad things for bad reasons. And I think Carl Lee very much fits into that world.
How about his obsession with the algorithm in particular? It's just like that kind of predictive method is just all over the place in our world right now. But was there any specific example of the use of an algorithm that you think really kind of aligned with Carl's agenda while you were researching for the role?
Well, I think the ones that were the closest to what Carl is doing were actually ones that predict health. Veena sent me a bunch of, I think they were like TED Talks or podcasts or something about, algorithms that exist now that can fairly accurately predict a person's health and their future of their health, and even could predict how you're going to die, which is a really crazy thought, And I think thought is, if you can predict someone's health that accurately, why can't you predict someone's behavior? So that was a really good launching off point for the why of what Carl's doing, and made it all make a lot of sense. Certainly I think, it would be possible to go back into a person's MySpace, Facebook, collect all this data, see what they're doing, try to decipher fact from fiction. And from that, you probably could make an algorithm that's fairly accurately predictive of their future behavior, I mean, I see it now even with on Instagram and the ads on Instagram, and it's so accurately exactly when I want to buy. It's crazy, and they get me sometimes. They know exactly what I want in that moment, and it's on my Instagram as an ad.
Dana and I talked about an AI developer. Her name's Jen Goldbeck, and she wrote a lot about Cambridge Analytica, and she did a study where she looked at people's Facebook posts, people who had newly become sober. And they could predict with, I think it was 85% probability based off your friend network, your posts, who would stay sober and who would relapse with 85% predictability. So, the algorithms are out there, and who needs an algorithm who needs God when you've got an algorithm?
Oh my God, looking at it that way. Avan, what was it like shooting the scene where JJ leaves Claire? Because most of the series, he's the guy who actually believes her. And that was a really tough scene for me to watch and digest. So was it that challenging for you on set, actually performing it?
I think that what I love about JJ's relationship with Maika's character is that there's this sort of, in a world that is sort of, I don't know how Veena sees it, but this is definitely how I interpreted it. In a world that is not believing women, distancing themselves from women, or just maybe this concentrating on not believing women, there's somebody who does, and he sort of represents this sort of modern man, this sort of new slot of male individual who can sort of be there to help and support, and so I think that's an interesting character for a character trait for someone to have. To Maika's point, shooting late nights sort of make it all this sort of heady fever dream. It's its own sort of world that you're acting in, and you can actually stretch and pull things out that you weren't expecting. It's a vulnerable state to be shooting emotional scenes at 4:30 in the morning after been doing it for a week and a half. So, or even just like, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. So it's, I always see it has its disadvantages as far as like your actual, like sleeping health. But as far as like what the sort of in this particular genre of like sleepless night running around the city, it just adds to that.
I'm so excited we finally get to talk about the ending, particularly Carl's demise. Why go with the wolves? What inspired that decision?
Dorothy had to have her dog. She had to have Toto. It's a story about a girl and her dog, kind of against the world. And so Pebbles, in many ways, Claire was definitely the hero, but she had a very good lieutenant in Pebbles. I have been fascinated by the fact that we live in an urban oasis that has 1 million tons of wildlife running around, coyotes. I have bears in my neighborhood. We live in a place that, the wildness can come in at any moment, and does on the highway all the time. And so I really wanted to incorporate that facet of LA into the final denouement between those two.
You're always going to win me over with a story where, like, one, you let the dog live, but then you also make it kind of like a sidekick hero. Maika, at the very end, where do you think Claire's head is at? Because I read it as she's going back out into the world with kind of a new sense of strength. But does she, does she ever want to touch a piece of technology again after all this?
Good question. I think what I loved about the script is just seeing this huge transition in this woman, and like how she learns what she's capable of. And I think seeing her walk away at the end, it's a completely different person than we met in the beginning. And I think that it's really empowering and just like, I had so much fun filming that scene. And it was great because we shot it at the end. It was our last week of shooting, and we switched from night shoots back to day. And it was just a great way to end the shoot.
And now that everyone here has seen The Stranger straight through, is there anything like an Easter egg or a tiny detail that you really hope people look out for on a second viewing and don't miss? Any fun little things to kind of search the frame for?
There is one episode, like Maika pointed out, that is the one-shot episode. That was such a challenge, so fun. And thankfully, I had an actress like Maika who can just hold every micro moment over the course of 10 minutes straight, and in a perfect balance. There are cuts inside that episode. There are 3 cuts. So good luck to an audience finding them.
Oh, cool.
Now we know what I'm going to be doing after this. We have the pleasure of talking with all of you tonight, but there were so many people involved in making The Stranger. So if each of you had to name an unsung hero of the cast and crew, who would you, why?
I'd say the makeup artist, Marina. She was a freaking rock star. Not only was she amazing with all like the natural makeup, but the gore and the blood. But she just had such a great attitude on set.
Yeah, she was awesome. We played
hard nights, but she was great.
Awesome.
I'm really bad with directions, and I would get lost almost every day on my way to set. And I would call Freddie and I would say, Freddie, I'm lost. Can you please get me to base camp? And he would always get me there in a decent amount of time. So
love Freddie.
Definitely for me, it was Freddie. Yeah.
Paul Yee, our cinematographer, being able to use this new, forum or medium. And he just also had time to talk to me about what he was doing, which is always, I'm always trying to soak up as much information as possible. So that was great.
Paul, absolutely superhero of the movie, and my production designer, Jenny Mahler. She, me, and Paul were a unit, a trio, a trinity, in prep, trying to think how the hell are we going to shoot this thing and make it satisfying, on a tiny phone vertically and horizontally. So it took a lot of minds.
And our amazing first AD. I mean, my God. She's a rock. She was awesome. She's so good. And so she took care of us. So that was lovely.
Yeah.
Oh, it all came together. You guys crushed it. A huge thank you to all of you for spending some time with us. Thank you to everybody out there for joining us for this screening and conversation tonight. Tell everybody you know about The Stranger on Quibi, and keep staying safe, everyone.